Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Thomas Hughes. I am a child and adolescent psychiatrist here in Southern California, and this is my studio, where I meet and interview people to get to know them a little better. Today I want to offer you the same opportunity. Her name is Allison Anthony. She's a fantastic therapist that I work with, and today we're going to have an open conversation about her inspiration for becoming a therapist and her clinical interests, which include grief counseling and trauma work. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. All right. So I used to do like these big intros, or like go through someone's like whole history, and I'm just not gonna do that. We're just gonna jump into it. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself because maybe there's stuff you want people to know about yourself that I'm not privy to.
But like what? That I'm a Pisces, or like?
You can start there if you want to. I don't particularly care. People still do that sort of thing too, with like your zodiac sign and all that.
I'm an
stuff.
Enneagram 8. Yeah.
You're what?
An Enneagram 8. Do you know what the Enneagram?
I don't think I want to know. So
It's a personality thing.
I don't think
Why am I getting a pen? Is this my souvenir?
No, in case you want to use it or something like that.
Oh.
Yeah, it's up to you.
I don't know what to say.
Oh, okay. What's your name?
My name is Allison Anthony.
Very good.
Yes.
We can start there.
Excellent.
Allison Anthony, where are you from? Where were you born?
I was born in Great Bakersfield, California.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And really, you need me to prompt you for everything?
Yeah, I do.
Do you not like talking about yourself? Is that what this is?
No, I love talking about myself. I just don't know where to start to talk about myself.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
who doesn't love talking about themselves? So I grew up in Bakersfield, played softball. That was like my life. And then I went to school in CSUMB, Cal State Monterey Bay,
Okay.
which is how I ended up in that area. Did my undergrad there, got a psychology BA and a minor in sociology. Took some time off, worked at Starbucks.
You worked at Starbucks?
Oh, for 5 years. Why is that funny? I honestly, like last night, I was hanging out with all of my friends, and literally every single person at that table, except for one person, had not worked for Starbucks.
It's not that you worked at Starbucks. It's you in the uniform, the Starbucks uniform that I'm thinking of.
I went to a Catholic high school. I was already in uniform all the time.
Yeah, but the Starbucks uniform is a bit different. It's like it's not as bad as the In-N-Out uniform with the freaking
No,
hats.
we don't have fancy hats. That's correct.
But y'all get the caps though.
No,
There's caps.
you don't have to.
Oh yeah.
You don't have to wear a hat. You
That's
do
smart.
like they're still super strict though. You can't have visible tattoos. You can, or now I think they've loosened it a little bit, but you could only have like 2 or 3 earrings in your ear. I think it was 2. I think after that you got in trouble. Your hair had to be a natural color, like no nail polish.
Starbucks.
Yeah,
Back in the day.
it's still kind of like that.
Oh.
Yeah, they're still a little strict about things.
What prompted you to go into just anything in mental health? Why'd you go in that direction?
Oh, so my grandma, who was the major matriarch of the world and our family, she died when I was 14. She got breast cancer when I was in 2nd grade, I think. And then when I was 14, she passed from bone. And that was just insanely hard. Like I just did not know how to process this person who had been my go-to home basically from birth
Right.
up until that point. And like that was the meeting house for all of us. And just didn't know how to cope with grief because we don't ever talk about how to deal with passing, right? And then all of these, I mean, that was the first time I ever saw or heard my dad cry in my entire life. So like that's, I think, when it registered that this was a really big deal.
Right.
I mean, I knew it was going to be a huge loss, but it was just something that was like, okay, this is going to rock the whole world. So I finally decided, like I went to my parents and I said, I want to go to therapy. And them being the generation of boomers were a little hesitant, more so my dad, I think. And I said, I'm not doing well. Like, I don't know how to get rid of this. I just need to go to therapy. Plus, I was also at that time, I was 14. Life's hard at 14. Junior high is a horrible time.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
I'd
But
agree.
my parents also then took me out of public school and put me in private school. So I was away from all of my friends for my entire thing of high school.
Why'd they take you out of?
Okay, that's an interesting story. So my dad said I needed structure. Yeah, because listen, I snuck out of the house in the middle of summer at 9 p.m. My mom comes out. I'm standing in my front driveway, just shooting the shit with some neighbor kids. And my mom's like, I'm telling your dad, we need to discuss this. And I was like, okay. Like,
had you only done that once?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I was actually I had my little rebellious phase, but I got a tattoo at 17. We just do shit.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
If I go and I ask your mom and your dad, was that the only time you had done something like that? What do you think they'll say?
They're probably going to say no, but I wasn't as bad as my oldest sister. You can't ask them. So I am the only one that gets to tell this version.
There is the possibility I could find them. This is 2022. But
they have passed away, though. Oh. I was gonna get there in the questions. So, do you need a minute?
My foot is still in my mouth.
Do you need a minute?
No,
dude. I thought I told you my mom passed away. Remember when we were at work and I asked about your Mother's Day, and you said, "How was my Mother's Day?" And I said it was fine. And he said, "Did you talk to your mom?" And I said, "No, she died."
That doesn't sound like something I would ask.
Well, you were trying to be polite because I was asking you about your life because you refused to share with us.
All right.
Anyways, circling back to...
I'm going to reset myself now again. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
We're good?
Yes, we're good. Go ahead.
Okay. So anyway, I was having a hard time. Asked my parents to take me to therapy. They took me to someone. He was fine. He just wasn't my people. Then went to him for like 3-4 sessions. And then they switched it and had me go to like an older woman, which was better. Because I was having some grandmother transference. But then when I went into high school and started being really into boys and, going into that direction, I was saying I needed someone who is not going to make me feel guilty for talking about things like sex or,
Oh, so was the older woman doing that?
Yeah. I just didn't feel comfortable being like, hey, I just lost my virginity,
Got it.
So then we found my therapist that I had all through high school, Stephen Crouch, shout out to him. He was amazing, but the reason it worked so well for me is he's just a really good therapist. But the thing he did immediately was he had cancer and still kind of struggles with that. And my parents told him, don't tell her because we don't want her to have a hard reaction to that since her grandmother just died.
Gotcha.
Immediately he's like, your parents don't want me to tell you that I had cancer. And I said, why? I mean, not from jump, but still within the first session, I think, maybe towards the end. But he asked me how I felt about it. And I said, well, I would rather know what's going on than just be left in the dark because that's going to suck if one day you just disappear.
How did they know he had cancer?
He disclosed it.
Oh, beforehand, just in case something were to go wrong. Okay.
Or just a heads up, you're sending your daughter to me to talk about cancer and death. And I have been in remission a couple of times and all that stuff.
Question for you.
Yes.
So you had the first therapist that didn't work out. Mm-hmm. Were they not, it sounded like you didn't connect with them for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
Age, what else didn't really match for you?
I can't even remember his name. I think it was a situation too of I really felt he was on my parents' side.
Yeah.
Not in a bad way, but just it was someone that my parents had gone to. So it wasn't going to be my therapist.
Your parents had also seen him.
There was a bout where they were going to get a divorce. So I think they went to couples therapy.
Okay.
Got a lot of women are from Mars and men are from Venus books. Actually, that's reverse, but whatever.
It's a different time. Yes.
Yeah.
Go on. And then the next therapist, you felt a little bit, I think you mentioned some reasons why you felt more connected to her.
Yeah. I mean, it was a little bit, the office made a difference also. It was just set up a little bit differently. A little bit more warm, a little more nurturing, a little less dark. I mean, the other guy had a dark office for some reason. And
Interesting.
I went to her for a while, but then it was one of those things where it's okay, now I need a therapist that's not just for grief. It's also for being a teenager in high school.
Got it.
And going to a private school and playing softball year round and just struggling with this idea that I'm not good enough all the time.
Right, man. Hey.
But it was, I mean, he is the reason why I decided I wanted to be a therapist.
Got it.
Because just even having that option of calling someone and being like, I need you to come get me from school, and them doing it and taking me to lunch just so I can have a break. Or sometimes our therapy sessions were going out to dinner, or I just needed to show up at his office, and that was an option. Just being able to have that consistent ally was what did it for me.
Yeah, I asked all that just because, I mean, you know how this goes when you're looking for a therapist, the way people look for them. Number one thing, probably gender, number 1 and 2, gender, age, you throw in race, probably religion, and then just style, vibe. Yeah. So yeah, I was just interested to hear how that went for you as well.
Yeah. Well,
but they didn't have Psychology Today back then.
No, they did not. So we went through our general practitioners back in the day. We did not do Psychology Today ads.
Back in the day.
Yep. The 90s.
Listen, so I do child psych, right? Every time I see like a new chart, especially when I was in fellowship, this is when I was working with like really, really young kids.
Yeah.
I would see like a date of birth at like 2005 and just like.
Oh, it kills me. I don't know how to handle it.
I was in high school. This kid was just born.
I was graduating high school in 2005.
You're older than me. That's right. Forgot. Only by like a year, I think.
I mean, I feel like you're ahead of me in other areas of life.
Don't. Because I'm not. Have you looked around this?
Definitely could use some warming up. That's for sure.
What'd you expect? No, seriously, what'd you expect?
Exactly this. This is exactly what I expected. I actually was hoping you would be going to be in your black scrubs, and then
no. No, but I do have black curtains and everything else in the place is black. Black cameras, everything else. I would paint the walls black if I could, but I can't. So
it's your favorite color?
What, black? Oh, absolutely.
But it's not. It's just an absence of color. That's a different.
Okay, we'll move on.
Anyways,
now.
so no, but Stephen was, so my mom got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer in January of 2005.
Okay.
Which completely fucked up because she's the only person in her family to ever have cancer, and then she gets that one. Like my grandma's 95.
Yeah.
Still rocking.
Your grandmother on
my mom's side.
On your mom's side. Your dad's side is.
Yeah, my dad's side was the one that had like the heart disease, the diabetes, and the cancer. So I was really hoping my mom's genetics were going to cancel all that out.
Yeah.
And then she got diagnosed in January with that, which also did not contribute to a great senior year because they were gone a lot. She got into a clinical trial in San Francisco. And so I was alone most of senior year, but I had my therapist who completely understood what it was like to go through chemical trials and all of that stuff. And then, so she did not get any better. The doctor actually told me later that the chemo fed her cancer. It progressed it faster. But by the time they had found it anyway, it was already wrapping around its spine instead of going towards the liver. And then she got sent home on a Wednesday. 2 days later, my dad had a massive heart attack and died next to her in the living room. And I'm at school, just like writing in a free journal about how this week really sucked. So, I mean, and then I called my therapist and he met me at the hospital. Like he met me there and was able to just kind of normalize how I was feeling, because he's like, "Are you hungry?" And I said, I don't feel anything. He said, "I know it's weird. Like you just shut down." But that was another crucial thing. And I just always kind of felt like I want to be that person for someone. My mom was really worried about me being a therapist, to be honest, because she just thought that I was going to hold everyone's stuff and take it personal.
She thought you were going to be a therapist? Or
I told them when I was 14, like, I'm going to do this.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I promised them that I would get a master's because my dad said if you don't get a master's, you might as well work at McDonald's, which is annoying.
Shout out to all the McDonald's workers out
there. Of course.
I know what you mean.
Yeah. But
that's not a long-term plan that he had for you. Is what
yeah. It was just, it's the millennial dream, right? You're going to go to college and get a good job.
My, how things have changed.
Yeah, that's a different podcast.
So, that's okay. So that all makes sense. Now I have to ask how you ended up at a prison.
Okay. Yeah.
By the way, we met at
We're not going to say that?
We're not going to say that. So
Okay.
I'm going to blank that out.
Okay.
I'm going to bleep that out. I don't think it matters, to be honest with you. I don't know if it matters, but yeah, still going to take it out.
We met at a correctional institution.
At a correctional institution. I had just started. You were already there for how many years?
5?
5 years total.
5. Well, 5 and 9 months if you count because I interned there. So
Is that why because you needed an internship? Like, how did you end up at the prison?
So the whole reason I decided to look at a population that is generally kind of looked down upon actually is CSUMB makes you do service learning for 2 years, which is community service. And the first one I ever did, I said, I want to do something that's going to challenge my upbringing and my preconceived notions. And I decided to go and work at a needle exchange program in Chinatown and Salinas.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, you don't know anything about addiction except for what you hear. And then, the commercials of this is your brain on drugs with the frying pan and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that was the time where I realized that the people that have been cast away are probably the ones I'm going to be able to learn the most from. Because of, the resiliency alone, right? Of just surviving out on the streets.
Yeah.
So I did that. And then when it came time for my master's program, my first placement just was not what I wanted it to be. I wanted a high intensity thing. Like I was the bar opener for Starbucks. Like I was cranking out drinks. I like a fast paced kind of gig. Don't laugh. It's true.
Everything comes back to Starbucks.
It does. We all go back there.
But you're saying after you got your master's.
No, this is during my master's program.
Oh.
My first placement just was not.
When you say placement, what does that mean?
My first internship.
So while you're getting your master's, you get an internship.
You get 2.
You get 2. Okay.
You get 1. Well, the program, CSUMB was pretty new. It got accredited the year that I graduated from my program.
Okay.
But so it was a 3-year program. But normally they now have a 2-year option and but you have to have an internship during it regardless for each year.
As you know, I'm a psychiatrist and need to learn these things. So.
Yes. I forget that it's so different for you guys.
Yes. But go on. Yes.
Yeah, so I did a county internship. It just wasn't my vibe. And then Albany Goodall came in to class before we started our 3rd year and was talking about the prison system.
Okay.
At the time, it was the Department of State Hospitals within
DHS.
Within the institutions.
Okay.
All the ones that then became the PIPs that we worked at. So it was hearing about like mental health and corrections and I was like, this sounds amazing, super interesting, sounds challenging, right? Because then I've never worked with adult males. And I just really wanted to do it. I guess that Albany told me later that was the first year that they took 2 interns because myself and the other person interviewed so well.
Right.
I think it was ultimately just kind of meant to be, if you want to throw universe, God, fate, whatever into it. Right. No, I'm serious.
I believe you. Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, I did my internship there for 9 months. Loved every bit of it. Thought it was awesome.
Yeah. Interesting place. By the time I got there, y'all were having staffing issues. I know that.
We've always had staffing issues.
Yeah, I would imagine so. It's hard to get people to come and work at a prison.
Well, but I felt safer at work than I did going to a bar.
Okay.
Maybe it's just, listen, females in prison, we're loved. They love us. For the most part.
Anthony. Y'all are. Look, y'all got, I honestly feel like y'all got it worse than
oh, we do. 100%.
Yeah. But I know what you mean, though. Like, there's rules in the prison where if you hit a woman, then there's consequences to that from the other guys. I get that.
Yeah. To a certain extent, if I do truly believe that if, like, shit went down in my group, there was going to be at least 2 to 3 patients that were going to make sure that I was okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I understand.
Yeah. But I still feel like I'm somewhat like overly hypervigilant. I went to go see a client in a private setting and I realized that I was in a place where I'm like, I don't know this client. I'm in a room. Obviously I put my chair closest to the door.
The thing is, like, again, with like being in those small rooms with these guys, with the officer outside, it takes, I would think, 3 to 5 seconds to like move those heavy doors, get inside, and then actually you have to separate the person from yourself. That's a long time. You could get in, a good 2 to 3 punches. You have a weapon. You can get a good stabbing in.
Yeah.
You could do a whole lot of stuff in a short period of time.
I know. Isn't it weird that like normal people don't think about that stuff?
They don't have to. No, seriously, they don't have to. And I think that's a good thing. Like, you shouldn't be aware of all the dangers that there are in the world. Otherwise, you won't be able to function.
But, okay, I also just feel like women generally kind of grow up with that mentality anyway.
Yeah, you have to. That makes sense.
Yeah.
It absolutely makes sense. It's better that way. But, it's mental health. There's a line where you cross over into where now, crap, I'm so aware of all the dangers in the world, I can't leave my freaking house.
Right.
That's not what you want.
No.
So I think for some people, their threshold for that kind of information is a little lower than other people's. That's why some people I don't think can really work in a prison system. No.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that go into whether or not someone is compatible for a prison system for sure.
Yeah.
But that is one of them.
Yeah. I was thinking about it the other day, like, because I never looked at the crimes. Some people would like to tell me what the crimes were against my will, but I never looked in their charts. I remember having like a number of conversations with the guys, just general combos about sports. Maybe they tell me about their family, but I never knew what they did. And every now and then a guy would tell me, because,
sometimes they just like to talk about it.
They like to talk about it, yeah. But after having one of those conversations, someone would blurt out what the crime was, and I'd be like, he did what? I just talked to this guy about whatever, such and such. And then you go back out into the community, Starbucks, whatever.
We're always going back to Starbucks.
Yeah, and you're talking to somebody that looks just as calm, just as intelligent, just as safe as the person you were just talking to that's incarcerated for 30 years. And you're like, wow. If this person really wanted to, they could probably stab me in my neck and take all my stuff. But the only thing that's stopping them from doing it is just maybe they're too busy that day. I don't know.
Or they just didn't have a traumatic childhood that led them to being in that type of constant mentality.
Yeah, that's true. You're getting specific though. I'm just generally speaking. Well, you're all capable.
Yeah.
I'm saying we're all capable of such things is what I'm saying. Like, I know the traumatic child, we can talk about that too, because that's important too. Like, the traumatic childhood sets you up for it, but regardless of whether or not you're set up for it, generally speaking, you're capable of, like I said, I don't know what you have in your purse right now.
Business cards, you want one?
Yeah, I'll take your business cards. But yeah, if you wanted to, you could just do it. And that's how vulnerable people are. My overall point, I'm bringing it back to what we were talking about earlier, like being aware of that kind of thing. I don't think everyone, you don't want that kind of awareness. And I think working at the prison, I was already aware of it, but I became even more aware of it.
Right.
And now you're out in the community.
Now I am. Yeah.
Doing private.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Listen, that transition from going from an insanely energetic 24/7 manned facility where you have a caseload of 30 guys who are all supposed to be there short term, theoretically in a perfect world, and having stuff scheduled every single day back to back for 10 hours, to my dog, who is adorable. Right, my little corgi Roscoe. And I went from a place where I was socializing constantly to the point where, like, we had 4-10 schedules, so we had 3 days off, and one day would be me completely recharging on the couch, doing nothing but watching TV and napping because I'm so overworked and overstimulated.
Yes. So what are you doing right now in the community? I know you're doing therapy. What patient population are you choosing to work with?
My age range is 15 and up.
Okay.
I mean, 15 to 99. But I will consider a really mature 12 and up, depending on the scenario and what's going on. I want to work with first responders.
Okay.
Because I feel like I don't want to say there's a stigma, but maybe there is in first responder culture.
What attracted you to first responders or to want to work with them?
It was really working with the officers, and figuring out how to communicate with in their language and get them to open up and ask questions and be a little bit more interested in what it was that my job was, and knowing that there is such a need, because this is what I saw. All of these men and women work in an insanely high intensity environment for multiple days a week, and they struggle with substance abuse, and they struggle with energy drinks, and they struggle with sleeping and eating consistently and having a healthy life. And then they also go home and they can't talk to their partners about this, and they have to be mom and dad. So it's like, where is that processing time for them to figure out? It's not normal to have to take down grown men as a living or see people cutting themselves. Like that's not,
Right.
that's not a normal day-to-day experience. And also the same thing with firefighters. You know, they see really tragic things. All these first responders are coming to people in the worst moments of their lives.
Right.
And then it's just pick it up and move on. So when is that processing happening?
Well, with you. Hopefully.
Right. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how open do you think they would be to that? Like, do you think that would be a struggle for them to actually take that first step to?
Yeah.
What do you think might allow for them to be more open to going to go talk to a counselor?
I think it's ultimately being around counselors, right? If you think about it, being immersed in that environment, part of the reason that people don't go is because they don't understand the job, right? And that's one of the things that I told the officers. I said, you don't go to a therapist, or they've told me, I should say, they struggle to find a therapist because the therapist just doesn't understand what they do. Right. So it's being around someone that's going to understand your job and is going to understand the demands of your job and not try to approach it from a really kind of out there mentality of like, let's hold a crystal. And listen, I love my crystals, right? But I'm not going to be like, here, hold this crystal and let's meditate, because that's just not going to work for everyone.
If you remember, when we started off this conversation, we were talking about when you were 14, 15 years old, what made you or allowed you to open up to your therapist. And it was, again, that same background, understanding your background sort of thing that attracted you to it. And I'm just noticing that's kind of what you're talking about right now with the officers.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very important.
I think rapport and understanding is the biggest part of therapy. You know, you could have nothing demographically in common with that person, but there's an energy or a vibe or however you want to, or a personality trait that you just click with. And that's who you want to do that. Also, I've noticed too that people just have a hard time dumping all of their stuff on their therapist. And that's literally my job. Right? Like I went to school to learn how to absorb and remove that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And to hear it and not hold on to it. That's my job. But you get men who, you know, the male culture is very challenging in its own sense too. Of you're not supposed to have feelings. I mean, I saw my dad cry one time.
Yeah.
So it's learning how to have them process things in a way that they feel comfortable with it, because I can't just be like, let's cry today.
All right. So let's say, I don't know, let's take a first responder, maybe a firefighter. What do you think? Let's take a firefighter.
Okay.
Firefighter comes into your office or calls you up. What happens then? Like, what's your approach to like meeting someone and trying to help them? Like, how does that go?
So I basically asked, like, what is it that you're wanting to work on? What's your profession, right? And this is I kind of assess whether or not it's a crisis situation. And then discuss if they want to do in person or virtual.
Okay.
Because again, if they're really hesitant about going to therapy, going in person to an office and possibly being seen by other people might be a little too much. Same thing, you know, or if they don't have the space to do a virtual appointment, right? So it's figuring that out. And then it's just kind of, it takes a little bit of time to just get used to each other, you know, and especially if someone's never gone to therapy before, they don't know how it starts.
Right.
They're not as open with information or just sharing their whole story and being a chronic oversharer like me.
It take that first appointment is always, it's like, listen, you don't have to tell me everything about your life story. We can just talk about sports. We can talk about, what you did yesterday, your favorite type of food. You like to cook, you like to clean. What do you like to do? And we can just talk about that. And usually that allows people to relax, and slowly but surely the information starts to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Or they just come in and they want to throw it all on the table, which is also fine. It's all good. None of it's bad.
Right.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. So you have to sort of measure it, take it as it comes. So those are first responders. That's more of a passion of yours.
Mm-hmm.
I was curious about grief counseling for you as well. Is that something that you are interested in also?
Yeah. I think one of the most challenging things about death is that it quite literally happens to everyone, and we never talk about it. We never talk about what the grief process looks like. There's 5 stages. Okay, great. There's 5 stages. People honestly think that means that you literally go through them.
Oh, yeah.
And you're only supposed to be in them for a certain amount of time. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
You're going to circle around, you're going to bounce around those different stages, and you're going to be in them for how long you need to be in them. But it's looking at the severity of the loss, right? If it's an extended cousin that you've only known 2 or 3 times in your life, and you're still really struggling with that, then that's a different kind of conversation versus a sibling or a parent or grandparent that you're incredibly close with.
How do you tell the difference between a normal response to loss and a diagnosis of grief? How do you tell the difference?
I think duration of time is a big one.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
If we are 3 months, 6 months, and still crying every single day and incapable of functioning at a human level of survival, eating, sleeping, all those things, then that's when it should really be looked at. But again, if you have someone that passes away and 3 weeks later you're still struggling and you want to go talk to someone, perfect. That is an adjustment disorder type of thing. But it's when it's severely impacting you. Like for myself, I really put off grieving my parents. I mean, I cried. Don't get me wrong. I cried. I had, my moments, but I avoided it for so long. I just kept pushing. And I'm like, okay, just get up and go to school and get up and go to work. And
what did you avoid?
I avoided crying and feeling and adjusting to that shift. I mean, if you think about it, like I'm 18 years old, I'm going to go to college, and my parents were supposed to be there for, at least one of them was supposed to be there for that. And now I'm in a new city on a campus that I have no friends, but maybe one person that I know, and responsibilities of the pets that my parents had. Excuse me. And so I just kept moving. People would say something about my parents passing away and I'd just be like, yeah, it sucked. And I just move on. Like I never really allowed myself to feel what the seriousness of that loss was. And it resulted in me having like a full on breakdown, like could not get off the floor, could not go to school, could not do anything, breakdown, so let's talk before we get to that point, right? Let's find somebody to talk to about it before that.
Well, I've been learning it's not just like you thinking of grief, you're thinking of like humans passing away.
Oh, don't even get me started.
Dog people.
On the dogs. Oh God, my Maggie. I miss her every day. It's been 2 years almost.
Again, I'm not a dog person.
You would love her though.
I'm not a dog person, but I understand. So it's
on
what
that,
you have a connection to.
Yes, but also on that note, I would work on grief work with the inmates.
Yeah, of course.
Not on people that have passed in their life. Grief the loss of the life that you didn't get to have, of the childhood that you were never given the opportunity to have, the normal childhood, right? Not being in a gang, not having a drug addicted parent, not having all those, like the perfect Mr. Rogers childhood that you didn't get to have. Grieve that. Like grief is not just death. It's transitions, right? I kind of had to grieve a little bit of the fact that I left CDCR because it was a huge part of my life. It was a career that propelled me into the place that I'm able to be in now. I learned so much from being there. So it's that, and that's the thing too. We don't look at the the bigger picture of what grief is.
Yeah.
It's a loss. It doesn't matter of what.
Something significant to you.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. So you're going home after this? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go home and hang out with Roscoe.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
How do you think you did?
I think it went well.
Were you nervous before?
Yeah.
You nervous now?
No. I'm
Yes.
nervous for your editing, though.
Why?
Because you're going to have to cut some
No,
stuff.
well, yeah, I will chop some stuff up, but I think you did fine. You did fine.